Hi, Mary.
Hi, Lizzie.
Welcome back. Another episode of today's anatomy question. Mary Richards is joining us. She's our anatomy expert and she's co-teaching experiential anatomy. You can already go to the website experientialanatomy.yoga, get on the list, stay in the loop. Today, Mary, I wanted to talk about, you can see I'm on my mat.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about twisting. I wanted you to talk a little bit about, my question is about the lower back and twisting. There's a lot of instruction I've heard in yoga classes about holding the pelvis still and twisting to protect the lower back.
Yes.
So I'd love it if I was going to do some poses and you can talk us through it. I hope you watching at home will get out your mat and join us to feel it in the body, because I think that is the genius of the way Mary and Mom are teaching experiential anatomy, is that actually as we're taking the course, we get on the mat and we feel it in our bodies as yoga teachers. That's one of the ways we learn. So how should we start, Mary?
So I'd like you to start seated comfortably. Now, in my opinion, seated comfortably entails sitting on at least one folded blanket. Thank you. So most folks need two or more, and I'll tell you why. Immediately, by lifting the hips, it decompresses your low back. In fact, go ahead and get rid of the blanket if you're sitting on one, and just sit on the floor for a moment, and then sit on the floor.
Yeah.
Notice how your low back feels. Okay? Now I want you to take one blanket and place it under your sitting bones, not under the fullness of the bum, but under the sitting bones.
So there's this moment where I tip.
You tip, but we're not going into an anterior tilt. We're coming to neutral. Now, some folks need another blanket.
All right, let's try it.
So let's try it with two. So, and you feel how when you added that second blanket, it was like you were sliding down a hill.
Yeah.
So my technique for that, Lizzie, is to turn the blanket so that you're sitting on its corner.
Okay. Like this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, try that.
So, yeah. I have done this before with you, and I feel like it's poking me in a kind of bicycle seat way.
Yeah, and that you want to avoid that sensation because it's distracting, and that's because it is poking you.
Right.
So that to me tells me that you're likely going to be fine with one blanket.
Okay, so talk to us, before we start twisting, talk to us a little bit about why this pelvic tilt is important.
So first we want the pelvis in neutral. We don't want to be rolling. We don't want to be rolling back like this because, see, it takes us out of joint. At L5, S1, yuck. Too much out of joint. And you can feel as well how that compresses your organs inside your body. Now, go ahead and sit and try to take a breath. Everyone try to take a full breath. You can't, because there's no interior space for the diaphragm to move. And your diaphragm moves up to 2 centimeters. Its excursion is up to 2 centimeters with an inhalation, so you need room.
Okay, so if you're watching this, we just talked about that in the last episode. Go to Lizzie Lasater on YouTube, and you can find today's anatomy question about the pelvic floor. We did an exercise with that, so those are connected in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely, great connection. The benefits of experiential learning. But here's the thing: if we go too far forward, if we tilt too far forward, well, then that is going to cause all of this muscle tension in your low back. That's unpleasant. And believe it or not, that's also going to reduce your ability to breathe because it's going to contract the space available for the posterior diaphragm.
So, but I almost never university students do too much.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
always they think they're doing it when they're approaching normal.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but the true lordotic student is so rare.
Like 4% of people.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why the blankets are really important for everyone, and especially for those of us that model asana as teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are not typically normal. We tend to have more higher ranges of motion, etc. So sitting on the blanket is very important, and most people need 2 or 3.
Right.
And you can, because we want a neutral pelvis. We want the brim of the pelvis parallel to the floor.
Right. Okay, so take us to twisting. How does that relate?
Okay. So we need a stable, we need a stable foundation from which to move. Because, sorry. So, that's Penelope.
Hi,
So we need a stable foundation because your sitting bones when you're twisting are like your feet, right? When you're standing. So your feet have to be balanced. And we want to be able to breathe. And we also need to be able to grow up.
Right.
We need to be able to press against gravity because the tendency with gravity in particular is to go forward. Mm-hmm. Now, most people are already, they're already oriented forward. And so, yes, driving the desk.
Yeah.
And so, in order to twist safely, we actually need to create space for the spine to move. Right. And so that means, and if you sit comfortably on your sit-upon and feel the circumference of your sitting bones, it helps to wiggle just a little bit so that you can feel the bony contour. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, for those of us that have more generously proportioned bottoms, it helps to move the flesh of the bum toward the wall behind you. I don't like to pull it out, and I'll tell you why. Because if you pull the flesh of the bum out to the sides, it stretches the pelvic floor in a way that I don't want.
Okay.
Okay, so that ties to the other video as well. So I want you to move the flesh behind you. And then I want you to rest your hands comfortably, palms down on the thighs. Mm-hmm. Allow your eyelids to relax, not to close them, but just allow your eyelids to relax so that you get down into your body rather than hanging out up in your brain. And now I want you to pretend that your head is a hot air balloon. The supporting ropes run through your neck, and the basket of the balloon resides in the center of your chest. And as you inhale, I want you to visualize that hot air balloon floating up into the sky, lifting the basket, lifting the center of the chest. Inhale the breath. Exhale and turn to the left. Okay. I don't want you to apply any force. Just allow your body to find its position. Inhale the breath. Lift the hot air balloon again. Exhale, and now actively turn more. Use the arm as a fulcrum. Not to shove yourself into the pose, but to give yourself some pressure. And you move a little more, yes? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. And exhale, release. Could you feel how crowded that was? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you just practiced a seated twist with fixed pelvis.
Right.
Okay. And if there's no disc pathophysiology, meaning no bulging or herniated discs, you can get away with that to a certain extent. what it will help you do is it will help you mobilize your thoracic spine. Okay, so when we look at the structure of the vertebral column, okay, whoops. You can see these faces here. Okay, these are called facet joints. And in the lumbar spine, see how they're oriented vertically?
Yes.
So they're like walls.
Right.
These are lumbar vertebrae. They don't rotate.
Right.
Lumbar spine is designed for sagittal plane movements, for extension,
inflection.
Flexion. Okay?
Right.
Now, thoracic spine, sorry, have an orthopedic intervention here. Thoracic spine, the facet joints are oriented in the coronal plane.
Right.
Okay? So, lots of rotation. 40 degrees. 35 to 40 degrees. If you visualize a circle, okay, so lots of rotation here. And you can laterally flex. You can side bend. Now, these movements are limited in the thoracic spine because of your ribs. Thank goodness.
Right.
Because we have the heart and lungs in there.
No, but what I love about that, Mary, is that I love, I study design, and I love there's this kind of adage, form follows function. So I love that you can say that the vertebral column, you can see the function based upon the form of each vertebrae. That's a beautiful image.
It really is. And we use the same terms in anatomy circles. Form, function follows form. And so the reason why I pulled out the spine model to show that is because I want you to see that there is no rotation. There's cumulative. So in the entire 5 vertebra length of the lumbar spine, there is, if you visualize a circle, maybe 6 degrees. That's nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Okay, so what happens then when we sit with the pelvis fixed? We are in what's called a closed chain. One end of the chain is grounded.
Okay, so if I sit like this to do a twist,
yes,
what often is instructed is like ground your sit bones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I want you to try it like that. Everyone, you're sitting on your mat. You've got one leg extended and your other knee bent. And I want you to inhale. Please grow a little taller. Visualize that hot air balloon. Then exhale and turn toward the bent leg without moving your sitting bones. Okay. Now I want you to hold that rotational position and take a couple rounds of breath. Just get the sensation. Feel it in the body.
And now that after you just showed the spine and we talked about it, I feel like it's all happening in the thoracic.
Because it is. And what's happened now is you're really loading into your low back as well. Okay. So now I want you to release the twist with ease. And I want you to now adjust your straight leg sitting bone forward about 2 inches. Yep, scooch. So your sitting bones now are on an angle. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now I want you to inhale, grow taller, exhale, and rotate.
Whoa.
Right? Because now you've got a global twist. You have brought if we think of the body as a car, which I don't really like to think of that, but if we think of the hips and the shoulders as axles or as axes of movement, well, now they're in harmony with one another.
Right. Ah, yeah, they're in the same angle.
Yes, and so now you can really Yes, and if you lean back a little bit, if you bend your back elbow and grow out of the basin of the pelvis and exhale and turn more, you can have like a Linda Blair and the Exorcist moment.
Okay, so I want to move towards closing, but this is fantastic, Mary. This is so you have to just apply the brakes with Mary Richards because she knows so much and she loves so much about anatomy. So this is my last question on this topic for today. Okay. So what are we losing? Like, what are we risking losing in terms of our experience of the pose or our benefit of the pose if we say we are going to let the pelvis become asymmetrical as we start the twist? So that felt amazing, but am I missing out on any part of the pose by doing that? So what I hear you saying is I'm protecting my lower back and I'm moving in more harmony with the spine. But what are the drawbacks?
The drawback to that, to displacing the sitting bones so that they're no longer on the same plane. The drawback to that is you don't actively rotate as much in the thoracic spine. So there's less opportunity to mobilize the thoracic segment of the spine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I will instruct both. Mm-hmm. My preference, however, is to, in a general population class, is to instruct with the displaced sitting bone because I believe it's safer.
Right.
And there's just not enough of me to go around, if they're in a general population class. So, but when I'm working one-on-one with someone, especially someone with scoliosis or let's say a dowager's hump, someone who's very kyphotic, I will do both because the seated twist will help build strength and mobilize the thoracic spine. We just want to know what we're doing it for.
Yes.
That's the thing. What's the intention?
Yes.
Now, if my intention is to do Marichasana 3 and to twist until the cows come home, well, then I'm going to adjust my sitting bones. Right. I want a full body twist.
Right.
If my intention is functional or therapeutic in nature, I'm going to do both.
So what I love about learning more about anatomy is that we have this idea that yoga is this ancient, perfect, immutable system that was handed down for centuries. And as we've been discovering from Mark Singleton's research, for example, is that it's actually the asana practices have a lot to do with gymnastics for the turn of the century, nationalism, physical culture. And so when I learned that, I actually feel super empowered to think that all of our contemporary scientific anatomical understanding about health for the body should be applied in real time, and we have license to shift some of the kind of positioning of the asanas and make it make more sense for how we understand the body to work now.
Absolutely. I mean, you are preaching to the choir. I love Mark Singleton's book, Yoga Body, and it especially for women.
Yes. Because
a lot of these, I say so-called alignment because that's maybe a talk for another time. Many of the instructions are for the male body.
Exactly.
They're not for women.
Okay, and that's another topic. That's a great today's anatomy question.
And the more anatomy we learn, the more kinesiology we learn, the more embodied we're going to be, and the more literate we're going to be in terms of our own movement, and the more movement literacy we gain as practitioners, well, the more we can share it.
All right, Mary Richards, once again, wonderful job. To our viewers, please head over to experientialanatomy.yoga, and if you put in your email, you'll be sure to get all of the videos in the future, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Lizzie Lasater, to get more of these videos. What else do I want to say? Mary Richards, what's your website again? Mary Richards?
MaryRichardsYoga.com.
Okay, and you're on Facebook at A Little Yoga Goes a Long Way.
Yeah.
And you can find me, Lizzie Lasater, Facebook, Instagram, LizzieLasater.com. Thank you so much, Mary.
My pleasure, Lizzie. Namaste.
Namaste.